Hello everyone, and welcome back. I've got my book, and I've got my therapy friends. So without further ado, shall we begin? Now, I hope you remember where we were, because I ain't going back. That's what the previous videos are for. One thing I will tell you though is that we are starting a new chapter today. Chapter 8. So shall we? Chapter 8. Parent, Adult, Child, and Marriage. A friend of mine tells the following story about something that happened when he was a little boy. At the end of the meal, his mother announced to the brothers and sisters, who numbered 5, that dessert would be the remainder of a batch of her special homemade oatmeal cookies. I like cookies. Whereupon she procured the cookie jar and set it on the table. There followed a noisy scramble by the children to get into the jar, with the littlest brother, aged 4, last as usual. When he got to the jar, he found only one cookie left, and it had a piece missing. Whereupon he grabbed it and threw it to the floor in a rage of despair, crying, "My cookie is all broke." It is the nature of the child to mistake disappointment for disaster. To destroy the whole cookie because a piece is missing, or because it isn't as big, as perfect, or as tasty as someone else's cookie. In his family, the anecdote lived as a standard retort to further complaints. What's the matter? Your cookie broke? Okay. Can't imagine it done much good for that person to be reminded of something they've done since they were a child. Especially, really, the only real crime they committed here was to be the youngest. Oh well, you think. This is what happens when marriages break. The child takes over in one or both partners. The whole marriage is shattered when imperfections begin to appear. Marriage is the most complicated of all human relationships. I can't really say much because I've never been married. Few alliances can produce such extremes of emotions, or can so quickly travel from professions of the utmost bliss for that cold, terminal legal write-off: mental cruelty. When one starts to consider the massive content of archaic data which each partner brings to the marriage, through the continuing contribution of his parent and child, one can readily see the necessity of an emancipated adult in order to make this relationship work. Yet the average marriage contract is made by the child, which understands love as something you feel and not something you do, and which sees happiness as something you pursue rather than a byproduct of working towards the happiness of someone other than yourself. Fortunate and rare are the young partners whose parent contains the impressions of what a good marriage is. Many persons have never seen one, though. That is very true. I'm not going to just saying it's true. Well, I think it is anyway. So they borrow a concept of marriage from the highly romanticised fiction they read, wherein a husband has a nice job as a junior executive at a large advertising company and comes home every night with a large where have I just done there? So please don't say anything. Top, let's start this whole sentence again, shall we? It'll be a lot easier. So they borrow a concept of marriage from the highly romanticised fiction they read, wherein a husband has a nice job as a junior executive in a large advertising company and comes home every night with a bouquet of roses to a slender, radiant wife awaiting him in the $50,000 home with Armstrong floors and sparkling windows in which the candles are lit and the stereos playing music to make love by. Gotta love TV, haven't you? It's given so many people unrealistic expectations in life. There we go, I found myself. When the illusions begin to shatter, when the carpets are worn hand-me-downs from the in-laws, and the stereo won't work and husband loses his job and stops saying, "I love you," child comes on with the broken cookie tape, and the whole show ends with everything in little pieces. What is borrowed is the illusion, and what is blue is the child. Archaic feelings are not okay and contaminate the adult in each partner, and having nowhere else to turn, the partners turn on each other. It's making a lot of sense to me. I hope it is to you too. so I'm not going to explain it. It has long been recognised that the best marriages grow when both partners have similar backgrounds and similar reality interests. Now, one thing I will say, when they say similar backgrounds, in the old days that usually meant if you're white, you should only date other white people of your own, language group. Although ironically, I have been in mixed relationships. I've had a mixed relationship anyway. And we were okay until we weren't. Then again, that could have happened with anyone. Even though we're of the similar background to me. But one thing I will say is that you want someone who really understands, who not so much comes from your background, but understands your background. Because it's nice to have someone who does understand your past and your history that would have been affected by you being raised in a certain place. It's like you can date someone from the outside world, but chances are they won't understand how this little thing gives you a nice feeling because it reminds you of your childhood. Or they're not likely to understand that when you say that's alright, you're actually saying that's really good. So I'll give you a perfect example I just kind of pulled up. With my first girlfriend, which I've explained, so I'm not going to go into details. One day, they cooked a meal for me, and it was really good. I said, that's alright, that was alright. Because it means, that's an English way of saying that's really good. But all they kept saying was, alright means not good. And they weren't happy and they didn't speak to me for 2 days. They said it a few times because I kept saying that's alright. It was in a positive thing, but they never saw it as that. So you could argue that is what they mean when I say similar backgrounds. Because even if someone has a different ethnicity to you, if you're both raised in the same place roughly, you're going to have similar experiences and you're going to understand the same references, and when you say certain things, they're going to understand what you mean. I think that's what they're trying to say. In the old days, they didn't mean that, but I think that's what they mean now when they say similar backgrounds. But that's what I would say to someone anyway. Though saying that, many relationships from different backgrounds can work. I mean, they might have things slightly harder in some aspects, but if you love each other and the determination to make the relationship work is there, and the circumstances don't go against you, chances are you'll be as happy as any other couple, really. Back to the book, by the way. However, when the child is in charge of planning the marriage, important dissimilarities often are ignored, and the contract which reads till death us do us part is based on such information. I keep doing this. Let's start this again, shall we? When the child is in charge of planning the marriage, important dissimilarities often are ignored, and a contract which reads till death do us part is based on such insufficient sameness as we both love dancing, we both want lots of children, we both love horses, or we're both on acid. Perfection is seen as broad shoulders, shiny teeth, big bosoms. Sorry people, I don't mean to use the B word, but it's in the book. Look, it's there, look. I won't say it again because YouTube may just get me, and I don't like swearing. Shiny cars or other somewhat perishable wonders. Now, I've said this before, but I'll say this again. It's nice to have someone who's attractive and reaches your idea of what looks good in a person. It is nice to have someone because you need some sort of attraction. However, one thing I will say, just because they have broad shoulders, shiny teeth, and a big bosom, it doesn't mean they're going to give you a hug when you're sad. It really doesn't. Because outer beauty and inner beauty are two completely different things. What you want in a relationship, what I want in a relationship, is someone who'll give me a hug when I'm sad, not someone who'll tell me to man up and not be weak. You know? Attractiveness is great, but if they lack the inner beauty, then you're just wasting your time, really. And eventually the inevitable will happen. And it does. It really does. Sometimes the bond is established on the basis of mutual protest, on the mistaken assumption that one's enemy's enemy is one's friend. Very true. The saying the enemy of my enemy is my friend is not necessarily true. Often the enemy of your enemy is just someone you work with for a short period until you achieve said objective. That's it. In much the same manner as two children, mad at their mothers, comfort each other in a bond of mutual misery. Some couples hang together in a us against the world fashion as a protest against the malevolent they. They hate each other's families. They hate their phony erstwhile friends. They hate the establishment. Who doesn't hate the establishment? Or they hate those fatuous institutions of American superficiality: bowling, baseball, bathing, and work. Now, I will say this now, I've been bowling. Didn't really do a lot for me. Baseball, I don't really understand, if I'm honest with you. I tried to get into it once, but when the pitcher throws the ball, they seem to throw it sometimes like up here, and sometimes they do it always down to the feet. And I'm just left thinking, how do they hit that? I know the idea is that you go and make it hard, but it seems a bit silly to almost go for someone's feet like that. Just didn't get it, I'll be honest with you. Okay, the third one, bathing. Don't really care for baths. I'm a shower man. And work. I don't like work either. I really don't. So really, you could argue, I don't say I hate those four things, but I don't care for them really, if I'm honest. Let's get back to the book, otherwise we'll never get anywhere. They exist in a folly adieu in which they share the same delusions, yet they soon become objects of their own bitterness, and what used to be the game of it's all them becomes the game of it's all you. One of the most helpful ways to examine similarities and dissimilarities is the use of transactional analysis and premarital counselling to construct a personality diagram of the couple contemplating marriage. The aim is to expose not just the obvious similarities or dissimilarities, but to undertake a more thorough inquiry of what is in the parent, adult, and child of each partner. A couple who enters into such an inquiry might be said to have already a lot in their favour, inasmuch as they take marriage seriously enough to take a long look before they leap. However, one of the partners having serious doubt about the soundness of the alliance may undertake such an inquiry on his own. An example is a young lady who is in one of my treatment groups. She asked me to schedule an individual hour for her for the purpose of discussing her dilemma over the fact that a young man she had been dating for a short time had proposed to her. The child was immensely attracted to him, and yet there was other data coming into her computer which caused her to question whether or not marriage was a good idea. She had learned to use parent-adult-child accurately, and asked I help her examine the relationship on the basis of examining the parent-adult-child in each of them. Don't worry, people, we're not stopping. First, we compared the parent of each. We found that she had a strong parent, which contained countless rules of conduct and many shoulds and oughts. These include the admonition, so let's get to the next page, that you don't rush into marriage without thinking. Yeah, I can agree with that so far. There are certain elements of self-righteous, like our kind are the best people. I hope that's not a euphemism for racism. I really don't. Because if she's racist, she can go screw herself. Unless she means like married people are better than unmarried people. I've met people like that. People who look down on you because you haven't quite achieved what they've achieved in the romance field. The chances are they're miserable anyway. It contains ideas such as you are judged by the company you keep and don't do anything that is beneath you. That sounds like snobbery to me. It contained the early imprints of a home life that was hardly organised, where mother was the head of the house and where father worked hard and late at the office. See, that doesn't sound like a happy relationship to me, because you'd barely see each other. And poor mother is going to be stuck at home all day long. I've seen these old relationships on TV and that. The wife just stays at home all day, every day. There's no way to live. It really isn't. There was a great store of how-to material. How to celebrate a birthday, how to dress the Christmas tree, how to bring up children, and handle oneself in social situations. A parent was clearly an important influence in her life, in that the impressions had been more or less consistent. Although its rigidity was sometimes oppressive and produced considerable not okay feelings in her child, a parent nonetheless continued to be a constant source of data in all her transactions in the present. We then turn to examination of the parent in the young man. His parents had been divorced when he was 7 years old, and he had been raised by his mother, who indulged in material possessions and gave him sporadic attention. She herself was child-dominated and emotional, and acted out her feelings in impetuous displays of spending, with intermittent spells of sulking, withdrawal, and vindictiveness. Father did not come through on the tape at all, except as the imprint that he was a rotten, fatherless person, like all men. The boy's parent was so disintegrated and fragmented and inconsistent that he did not come through in present transaction as a controlling or modifying influence over his impulsive, child-dominated behaviour. His parent and his parent not only had nothing in common, a parent also highly disapproved of this. It's really seen that little basis existed for a parent-parent transaction about any subject, thus ruling out anything complementary at this level. I'll be reading this whole bit about this relationship, just so you know. So this is going to be a long one now, because you can't really stop halfway through. We then undertook an inquiry into the strength of the adult in each, and an assessment of their reality interests. She was an intelligent, well-educated young woman who enjoyed a wide variety of interests. She liked classical music along with what was the current rage. She was well read in the literary classics, she enjoyed making things with her hands, and liked to do creative, decorative things around the house. She enjoyed discussing philosophical and religious ideas. Although she could not accept the religious beliefs of her parents, she did feel that some kind of belief was important. She was reflective, conversationally adept, and inquisitive, concerned about the consequences of what she did, and felt she had a responsibility for herself. There are certain areas of prejudice which are forced to be permanent contamination of the adult, as any man over 30 who isn't married is up to no good. I'm 41 and unmarried. I'm up to evil, I think. A woman who will smoke will do anything. Very judgmental, this person is. So judgmental. Anyone who can't get through college nowadays is lazy. I failed college. Failed. What can you expect of a divorced man? Very judgmental. I'm not liking this person. In contrast, her boyfriend's adult was child contaminated. He continued to be self-indulgent as he had been indulged when he was a little boy. He had been a disinterested student in high school and had dropped out of junior college in the first semester because it didn't turn him on. He was not unintelligent but had little interest in the serious subjects that were important to the girl. He thought all religion was phony in the same dismissive way that he thought all grown-ups were phony. He couldn't spell, which particularly annoyed her. The only things he read were the pictures in Life magazine. The kind of guy, she said, who thinks bark, as in the composer, who thinks bark is a beer. Where the hell am I? There we go. He had superficial ideas about politics and felt government was bad because it takes your freedom away. Sounds like a libertarian at the moment. He was witty and clever but deficient in content. His primary reality interest was sports cars, about which he professed and exhibited extensive knowledge. It's apparent there was little to promote a sustained adult-adult relationship between the two. This level of transaction produced frustration in her and boredom in him. We then turned to an examination of the child in each. Her child was hungry for affection, anxious to please, frequently depressed and sensitive to incoming signals of criticism, which reproduced a strong feeling of not okay. She could not get over the fact that someone so handsome could fall for her. She had not had many boyfriends and thought of herself as plain, feeling her features were so ordinary that no one could possibly recognise her after one meeting. She was swept off her feet by this fun-loving blonde Adonis. That means he was very strong. He was very well strong, in the arms department. For you kids out there. And she could not discount what a wonderful thing it was to be loved and pursued. When she was with him, she felt okay in a way she had never felt before, but could not easily give this up. His child, on the other hand, was aggressive, self-serving and manipulative. He had always got in his way. He planned to get his way with her too, which was her part of the problem, since her parent would not allow her to enjoy the exotic pleasures to which he proposed to introduce her. I think that means he wanted to sleep with her, and she was scared to sleep with him because that is not what adults do, apparently. Well, they're saying not so much adults, but unmarried people, probably. Despite expressing no real beliefs, she's probably still got an idea in her head that to do such things before marriage is somehow wrong, and you shouldn't do it even if you want to. I mean, it's up to the individual, but all I'll say is now, if you're going to do whichever one you're going to do, just make sure that's the path you want to take. Don't let everybody pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. His child so contaminated his adult, and his parent was so weak that not only could he not weigh consequences, he thought the whole idea of consequence was silly and puritanical, and preferred, like Scar O'Hara, to think about that tomorrow. As their relationship progressed, there became less and less to talk about. Nothing existed parent-parent. Little existed adult-adult. And what did exist on the child level soon produced major disturbances in the girl's parent. The relationship then began to settle in a parent-child pattern, with her assuming the role of the responsible and critical partner, and his assuming the role of the manipulative, testing child, reproducing his original situation in childhood. This PAC appraisal was quite different from a judgment as to how good or bad each partner was. It was a search for objective data about each, with the hope of predicting what kind of relationship might be possible in the future. After much reflection on this material, the girl decided to give up the relationship as a bad deal that held little promise for happiness for either one. I agree with that choice. I don't think either are really compatible with each other. She was helped to see also how her not okay child was vulnerable to the advance of men who were less than she was, and that she had the feeling she wasn't good enough for a really nice guy. She not only found why this relationship was not complementary, but she discovered what she was truly looking for in a man, and proceeded not on the basis of her not okay position, on the basis of her new self-respect. Nor relationships contrast so clearly as this one. She had a strong parent and he had a weak parent. There are many cases where both partners have a strong parent, but with different and frequently discordant content. Different religious and cultural content can produce serious difficulty in if each partner feels the strong need to abide by the unexamined dictates of the parent. Sometimes this difference glossed over in the early stage of a marriage, only to emerge with fierce urgency with the arrival of children. Although a Jewish man may agree in advance that his children be raised in the Catholic faith according to the wishes of the Catholic bride-to-be, this does not mean that you may not be deeply troubled about it later on. The feeling here is that my religion is better than yours, and in fact our people are better than your people, which soon is reduced to I am better than you. This is not to say that differences of this kind cannot be resolved, but they require an emancipated adult in each partner, proceeding on an I'm okay, you're okay basis. And with that, people, that's it for today. Hope you learned something. I did. And I'll see you all next time, okay? Bye.